Hello out there in Piptown land. It's a beautiful place to be. Good morning, everybody. How we doing? All right, done with that one. How is everybody doing on Saturday, huh? Got a nice mug in hand. Looking forward to going through the Brixpedition with the 4-star Firestation. Now, I unlocked the 4-star Firestation yesterday. I have had the opportunity to play with it just a little bit, but it was underwhelming, I will warn you. However, it was also on the 7-star Brixpedition map, and it was toward the end. I only got to do the last 3 battles of the Brixpedition board with a 4-star Firestation. So I'm not entirely surprised that I was underwhelmed with it, as those nodes are very, very hard, and we're still figuring out what the best Firestation team makeup looks like. So, today in the Brixpedition, we're on board number 1, which is going to, admittedly, be way too easy. However, we will be able to play around with our Firestation team, put in all of our city and role model characters, and see where we go. So let's go ahead and get started today, collecting all of the rewards for our login and coming into the game itself. Now, I used a little bit of energy when I woke up this morning so as not to waste it because it was full. But now we're coming in here and clearing out everything else, getting all of my chef tiles with my monolith energy. Right now there is a timed quest going on to use monolith energy, so I am actually going to spend 100 gems in total to refresh my monolith energy twice so that I can get a bit more stuff. Now, it was also pointed out to me that I have enough guarded in tiles for what I was using it for, namely to unlock Primo and have it at 5 stars. So I'm going to stop getting guarded in tiles, and I am going to continue to get tiles for the characters that I need to build out my squad in order to get Officer Primo eventually, and to build up my city team now. So we're coming in here, we're getting a bunch of Headley tiles. We're going to come on over here and get LeQuay tiles, because I still want to get him up to 7 stars to help me out with that Peg Legs treasure event. I can now beat it, but I have yet to gold star it. Plus, LeQuay only needs 60 more tiles to get completely leveled out to 7 stars, so I'm going to keep pushing it. With the 84 energy left over, I am going to come and grab more Hiker tiles. I'm going to get Hiker to 7 stars just because of how versatile he is. There's no single team that I need him on for the arena or any of that kind of stuff, but for Brixpedition, you guys have seen. For Brixpedition, I use him almost exclusively with all of my pirates. So I might as well level him up just to make that a bit easier to accomplish, to finish, especially because I still have yet, since they released achievements, I still have yet to beat the ninjas at the end of board 7. That's right. Since they made the change and released achievements for Brixpedition, I have been unable to finish the Brixpedition. Generally speaking, I think that that's a problem. Not because I feel like I should always be able to win, but because it illustrates a very big problem with the Brixpedition that we have discussed a little bit on here before. Namely, that the difficulty ramping of the Brixpedition is way off. I can complete every single node of every single board in the Brixpedition with one team, barring the restrictions that they put on there that sometimes you have to use a builder team, or sometimes you have to use pirates or ninjas, etc. And you guys have seen that team. It's my 4 pirates plus my Hiker as a healer. And that's fine and dandy, but then I come to the end of board number 7 and find that with a single team, not only can I no longer beat it with the team that I could beat all of the rest of the Brixpedition with, but I can't beat it with any of my teams. See the issue here? The difficulty ramp should be such that by the time I get to board 7, the final node, I have already lost a few people from my roster. That's really how it should work, right? I mean, that's the idea. It's a marathon that you have to keep pushing through in order to, well, get all the way to the end. But the way that it's set up right now, it's just a marathon of time, but not a marathon of difficulty. So I think that they need to really look at the Brixpedition continuously to constantly update and make changes for it. My fear is that they are looking to fix it in a way that they never have to touch it again. And I think that that's the wrong approach. I think the approach is to set up a system whereby they can consistently monitor the Brixpedition. How many people are finishing it? Is it the right number of people? And how many people have they lost along the way? And constantly keep Brixpedition in a state of flux. It should always, always, always be changing so that we constantly have new problems to solve, new difficulties to surmount, as it were. EMZ says, I was super close yesterday to no deaths with Go Busto Redbeard Aurora. Yeah, an ice glider with 61 ninjas. EMZ, I have never in my life been that close to finishing it. The ninjas, board number 7, I think I've gotten to the second half of it fairly frequently, but it's gotten to the point now where I'll give it a couple tries and then just give up. Because it's just not fun to play against that ninja team at the end of board 7, if I'm being completely honest. And I've said this before, and I think that that's the issue, right? That this game is predominantly for fun, entertainment. You're putting together your best squad to go out there and do battle against the other squads. It's fun. It's Legos. And there needs to be some challenge to it so that we feel like we are earning something, right? Whenever we win a battle. But if it's too challenging, then it's just punishing. And that's currently how that node feels to me. Okay, so I've gotten these 2 nodes cleared out. Now I'm going to come in here, change of pace. I'm going to finish leveling up our businessman, our stinky man, as it were. I have found that one of the biggest problems with the city team is their extreme lack of damage. And I will show that to you in the Brixpedition pretty soon. And you can actually determine for yourself how you feel about it. But one of the big problems with the city team is that their damage is extremely low. At level 50, gear level 6, with a lot of my characters at either 5 or 6 stars, they still hit for less than 1,000 damage per turn. That is just unusable, if I'm being completely honest, especially when you're facing teams with a hiker who can heal everybody for 4,000 damage with 1 skill, or a Cook Bart, which can heal a single person for 8,000 damage with a single skill. You can see where only being able to do 1,000 damage on a hit is going to be a problem. So coming in here to the arena, watch the numbers just so we can compare, right? We had Argenta hit for 4,000. We had Darwin crit for 3,000. Cook Bart hits for 3,000, and he's a healer. We're going to have Lucy come in and hit for another 3,000. We got the unfortunate dodge in there. That's a bummer. But luckily, their Valiant was still on his heal buff, so that's fine. 2,000, 3,000, right? So we're watching all of this damage. And we're noticing that, I mean, despite the fact that my pirates are 7 stars, for the most part, what I've been talking about here, the difference in ability level, in damage level, is just extreme, extreme, extreme. You really need the sustain of Go Busto, but yeah, the only team I've beat includes Aurora, which shows a detrimental part of the game. I think what you're getting at there is that in order to beat the ninjas, you have to have the ability to bring people back to life, right? Because the ninjas also have incredible burst capabilities. I mean, they can destroy your characters in 1 or 2 hits, right? Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but they also go pretty fast, and they're also untargetable. So they are an incredible team when they're all put together. And they cause some problems for us because before you know it, before you've had a chance to react, they've just blasted through your team, right? So EMZ, what you're getting at is that you have to be able to bring people back to life. It's like a requirement in order to finish that node, which I agree with you. That's kind of an issue. X-Trooper, what's up, dude? Late taunter before, and I was wondering what that means. Do tanks have different taunt AI or something? Ah, yes, okay. So X-Trooper, a late taunter to me is one of two things. Either it's a tank who has to activate their taunt using an ability, like Valiant or Locust, but who's also very slow. So Locust is not a late taunter, but Valiant is. The problem with having Valiant on your team is that because he will go basically last, it gives your opponent 4 or 5 characters worth of turns to come in and smash one of your characters before your tank has given off his taunt. That makes him a late taunter. Scarlet is an exception to this because despite the fact that she is very slow, she actually taunts whenever a character gets below 50% health. So she's an outlier here, and my guess is that we're going to see more tanks with a mechanic similar to hers coming out in the future. But that's what a late taunter means. Now, Locust is a little bit different. So EMZ, the difference, Locust to me is not actually a tank. He's listed as a tank, but Locust will not taunt unless he's low on health. Which means, as EMZ pointed out, if you just target all of the rest of the people on the team, the space tank will not taunt because his taunt is tied to his heal. So he's a little something different. I don't know exactly what we'd classify that as, but I classified Locust as a support character despite the fact that technically, with tags, he's listed as a tank character. Yes, EMZ pointing out Valiant prioritizing healing and giving attack up. So that's another thing to consider, right? Is that in addition to him being slow, he also will only use his taunt as his second ability unless his team is full on health. So like the hiker, there is a certain threshold where healing characters will use their heals. And for Valiant, it's actually a relatively low threshold. If enough people on your team are missing about 10 to 20% of their health, then Valiant will use his heal and his attack up ability instead of his taunt. So if you're careful with it, you can actually prevent Valiant from taunting for 2 full turns. Now, X-Trooper, let me know if that answers the question well enough for you. All right, so looking here at the board, we are going to come in and snag all of these poppy tiles, finished off with 3 more Firestation tiles. I'm looking forward to this. I would love to get the Firestation up to 5 stars, but that's going to be quite the slog. So we'll come in. We know that at the end today we have collectibles. Before that, we're going to be facing this team here. Before that, this team here with Pirate Castle requirements. That's fine. We've got those for sure. All of this is going to be very easy today. Explorer team required. So what I'm going to do for today is actually play the nodes in real time that I can use on which I can use my Firestation. Any of the other nodes that require explorers or anything that, I'm just going to auto battle those. X-Trooper, that makes a lot of sense. I'm stuck with Valiant because of free-to-play pirates. Yes, I totally feel you. My Scarlet is only at 3 stars, and I have not been farming her in the general store because I've been using my gems mostly for money. And yeah, it does answer the question fully. Cool. Excellent. I'm glad you guys appreciate the content, guys. Let's come in here and see what the Firestation has in store for us. Now, 4-star Firestation. What is the difference between this and the 3 stars? That's the first thing that we've got to understand here. So, let's go ahead and see what we've got that's different from what we had before. Now, before, we had the first ability at rank 4, the second ability at rank 4, and the third ability at rank 1. We now have the fourth ability leveled up to rank 3, the third ability up to level 3, and 1 additional rank of each of these first 2 abilities. So what does that give us? Well, first off, we got more chance to gain a stack of courage per resist off of the first ability. So we should be seeing a little bit more courage than we were before. Second ability, heroes gain 10% defense per stack of courage. Before it was 8% defense per stack of courage. So we should see a little less damage being done to the characters we have with courage. Third ability, leveling up. Now this one actually got the biggest bonus. Whenever a hero with at least 1 stack of courage attacks, they have a 40% chance to clear 1 to 2 debuffs off of a random other city hero. Before, when it was at level 1, it only had a chance to clear 1 debuff, and the chance to clear was only like 20% or something like that. So this is a major power boost. And the last one, whenever a hero is defeated, 2 random role model allies get an increase to their stats based on the defeated hero's roll and stacks of courage. I'm not going to go through and read what each individual one is, but this allows us to actually lose characters and get buffs for the remaining role model characters on our team. Which begs the question, who are the role models we can put on the team? Well, right now there are only 3 real role models in the game, right? I'm not counting Primo. One is Poppy, one is Firefighter Ash, another one is Winston. Winston is a role model, but he's not a city character. So we have a decision to make as we go through here, whether or not we want to use someone like Iggy or Minor Clay to boost the resist chance of the people on our team, so that we have more opportunities to resist and gain courage. Or if we want to have an extra role model on our team so that when we do resist something, we have an extra 5% chance of gaining a stack of courage. Now I've played through this a little bit, and unfortunately, Winston at 3 stars is kind of tanky. He's got pretty high stats even at 3 stars. The problem is his damage is bad, just bad. And his kit, while good, is actually a little weaker than I'd like it to be. And I have Winston with all of his abilities leveled up as far as they can go. So, I'm going to start in here with Minor Clay. Now, it is Brixpedition, so we're going to throw in some extra allies along the way just to help us out. We are at, what is this, board 1? So this is all going to be very easy. So instead of actually seeing whether or not the city team is viable, we're just going to pay attention to what they do and how the mechanics work. Because basically any team that I put into all of these is going to win. And to illustrate that point, we just basically one-shot everything. So, compare the damage first. Highwayman, who we know is the biggest attacker in the game, next to Venkman, depending on how you're measuring things, hits for 3,500 to begin with. And that was on an attacker. Now we have our Firefighter Ash, who is at 6 stars coming in. I'm going to do her AoE ability. We see that on Kartovsky, we got a 2,000 point crit, right? So that's worth noting that the crit was half of the damage that the Highwayman did without critting. And that's with the biggest attacker on our team. So we're going to come in here with Minor Clay, get a little assist, 1,500 damage on his crit, so even less. Poppy, I'll show you, 1,100 damage on a single attack. Now that's pretty high for her. 1,100 damage on their basic attacks, and then 5,500 damage on the Highwayman's basic crit, which means he would have done roughly 3,000 damage without. This is not necessarily a problem of balance because Poppy is a healer and Sal is a tank. So they should be doing less damage. And if you compare them to people like, I don't know, Valiant, they do about the same amount of damage. The bigger issue is that you need to have both of them on your team, which takes room away from some of the other characters that you could have to deal more. Now, Cook Bart is also a healer, but when we get to him, keep an eye out for what his damage looks like. Oh gosh, I love Firefighter Ash. She's got pretty low defense, but the fact that she will be gaining stacks of courage throughout a fight really does help mitigate that with the Firestation. I have noticed the amount of damage that she takes because she gets more courage than anyone else on the team really take a nosedive when she's up at 5 stacks of courage. Remember, that gives her an extra 40% defense, so that's pretty significant. Now, Minor Clay did his basic ability and had Cook Bart come in with the assist for 4,000 crit damage. That's pretty significant, right? 4,000 crit damage from a healer. Let's see if we get his basic damage. There you go. 2,700 damage from Cook Bart, who is a healer. He's also 7 stars. I do get that. But even still, that's a big, big difference in the amount of damage that you're seeing my team doing versus the assists. There's 947 from Poppy, followed up by an attack that's 3 times as powerful from Cook Bart. So we're seeing the issue here, right? Major big time should be the answer. Now, in order to mitigate this, we have some options. And I'll start playing with them now. At the beginning of this, you can see I don't really need very many healers. But I'm also not really lasting long enough for anybody to try to apply a lot of debuffs to me anyway. So the stacks of courage are unlikely to come in. X-Trooper, I'm still impressed by Poppy doing damage at all. So what I'm going to do is replace one of these characters with my businessman Trent. I picked Minor Clay because at the moment, I'm not being faced with a team that's doing a lot of debuffs because none of the teams are lasting very long. But just to show you the difference in damage by switching out and adding Businessman Trent, who is an attacker, onto the team. Okay, now X-Trooper, here we go. For example, we have Barnabas and Primo on the opposing team, both of whom I would consider to be fast taunters. Now, obviously, on a castle team that has King Brutus, it's even faster because King Brutus is very, very fast. And the first thing that he does is he puts taunt on somebody. He puts taunt on the person with the highest health, which is probably going to be one of your tanks anyway. But even Master Barnabas and Primo are relatively fast characters in the grand scheme of things, so they're early taunters as opposed to late taunters. There's really no tanks that are medium taunters at this point. They're either fast, they're either early, or they're late. All right, let's do some AoE damage. Oh, look at that crit from Firefighter Ash. Just takes Barnabas out in one hit. I like it. Now, we know that Officer Primo is going to come in next, so we'll remove some turn meter from him. Can we take out their businessman in one hit? We do. So there you see Businessman Trent, 2,600 damage at 5 stars with his basic attack, non-crit. And even when Poppy does crit, she still will do less. It's a very, very big difference between the attacker characters and the support characters on your team. That's for sure. Do they taunt as soon as possible? X-Trooper, yes. Barnabas will basically always do his taunt as his first ability, and Primo will always do his taunt ability, which, remember, clears taunt from all of the other characters that have taunt as his first ability. Okay, now we have an explorer team coming in here. So we're going to put our pirates in here and just auto battle through this one because shouldn't be too hard. Space X-Trooper, I am actually very interested to see what happens with the space rework. I think that if Gorwell actually comes into the game, we could see a pretty significant meta shift, because Gorwell's infestation ability adds a significant amount of speed to the opposing team. Speed is an excellent ability, probably the best ability in the best or most important stat in the game. So even though Locust is not really a tank, despite the fact that he's tagged as such, I think we're actually going to see several space teams. I think it'll really depend on how they rework Kelvin, because if they go based on what people voted for, that's what they're going to be reworking. I'll be very interested to see if there is a meta shift when that comes back. Primo seems like a pretty spicy unit. Primo is a very powerful unit. His master event has only occurred once, and it was, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was before the official release of the game. So it was while the game was still kind of in beta that they tested him out. So a few people do actually have him, but yes, his ability to protect the team, he generates a lot of courage for the team. He's a pretty swanky dude. A lot of people have been calling for Kelvin to get an ult. I don't think Kelvin is going to get an ult. I think they're just going to retool her kit. I think there are a lot of people that have Kelvin because she's such an easy farm. She's pretty easy to get fully up to gear level 6. So there are actually a lot of reasons to prevent Kelvin from getting an ultimate, essentially because you don't really have to work for it. And the game likes to reward people with ultimates on characters they have to work for. There are exceptions, obviously, one of which being the chicken suit guy, but no one uses the chicken suit guy anymore anyway, so what does it matter? There we go. 4,000 damage on a crit from our Stinky Man. I've only been here for the Blue Ninjas event, Ghostbusters. Kelvin just needs anything. Yeah, so everybody agrees that Kelvin definitely needs the rework more than anybody else on the space team. The second number of votes actually went for, 6,200 from Firefighter Ash. Sorry, but I digress. The second number of votes actually went for Blacktron Dave, who admittedly also needs some significant help. His kit is actually pretty good, but he is just too slow. And he has a whole bunch of abilities that are meant to synergize with other debuffs. And the space team can kind of do those debuffs, but it's a little bit lackluster at the moment, the amount to which they can. So he also needs a rework. I would not be surprised if the space rework actually came with both a Kelvin and a Blacktron update. In fact, if I was working on the game on the dev side, that's actually what I would suggest. Spaceman Reed, people tend to like, but there's always an issue when you just rework a single character. And that problem comes with, well, what's the best way to say this? When you rework an entire character, you're basically assigning synergy to a single character based on what already exists in the rest of the game. That makes it relatively predictable, right, for how somebody is actually going to be reworked, because we know what the rest of the space team does. So if they want to make Kelvin viable, we know what she would need to do in order to synergize with that team. It also really prevents you as a developer from being able to fully explore all of your rework potential, because you are locked in to reworking based on what already exists with the rest of the team that this character is meant to synergize with. So what they really should do is probably rework all of the space characters. But what they need to keep in mind is the different factions of space that are going to come out. Spaceman Reed is classic space. Are we going to be getting more classic space characters? And if so, then what is their specialty going to be? Are we going to be getting more Blacktron characters? Then if so, what is their specialty going to be? And based on all of this information, we then make a decision about how to rework all the characters. Right? The Space Odyssey team with Commander Cold and Kelvin is different than the Blacktron units, is different than the classic space teams. So right now, it's yes, Kelvin needs a rework, but I personally think that reworking this, like Kelvin right now, is a bit of an issue because she doesn't really have much of a team to synergize with, if that makes sense. Let's see. He also has super low attack. Kelvin actually has more attack. Space characters in general just have low stats with no real tank. Yep. Yeah, and the devs actually released a statement saying that they are relatively happy with Reed's performance, so he's probably not going to get a revisit. But I can basically guarantee you that when they start releasing more specific versions or more specific faction characters, they probably will. I think it's inevitable, and I think it's practically unavoidable too, right? If you're going to release, say, 4 more classic space characters, then you've got to make sure that they play nicely with Spaceman Reed. Otherwise, what's the point? And so in doing that, you have to either build like 4 new classic space characters around one character that already exists in the game, or be willing to take another pass at that one character. And if they're not going to be bringing in classic space and Blacktron and more Ice Station Odyssey characters and things like that to join the space team, then what's the point of them having different tags anyway? So I have a feeling that with space in particular, we're actually going to see several iterations where they go through and change them over and over and over and over again until they get it right, or what they would consider to be right. All right, coming here to another battle that we're just going to auto battle. Okay, now this one, we know we need to take out Explorer Aurora first because we have her and the Ice Glider set. The second most important person to take out is going to be the Yuppie. It is pretty common for this team in particular to just be a war of attrition because of the 2 tanks, Commander Cold giving everybody defense up. You've got the 2 healers on the team. It's a lot to deal with. Plus, the Arctic Glider makes it so that every single time somebody dies, that their Explorer Aurora can bring somebody back to life. Although we are on board number 1, which means that their Arctic Glider is not leveled up as high as it could be. So, maybe they could change the AI for Locust so he taunts more effectively. EMZ, yeah, that would actually be a really easy thing for them to do. They could also change it so that he taunts. They could change the AI in such a way that right now it's when he needs to heal, he will use the taunt, is basically what it does. So if you never need him to heal, he will never taunt. Literally never. What they could do is change it so that if any of the other space characters is below 50% health on Locust's turn, or if Locust needs to heal, then he will use his taunt ability. I think that could actually pretty easily solve the issue. And they could then change that 50% marker, right? Maybe it's if any other space character is below 60%. Maybe it's if the total health of the team is below 70% or 80%, then he'll use his taunt, something along those lines, if that makes sense. But yes, they do definitely need to be adding some AI, some different AI in there to make him taunt more commonly. Otherwise, he's a garbage character on defense. Sorry. All right. So if we're looking here, we are now getting into some teams that do apply a few more debuffs, which is excelente. We can see that our chef actually managed to get a stack of courage. That's great. Our businessman Sal is being picked on a lot, so I'm gonna clear those debuffs and heal him for 13,000 health. Nice. Now, can we just smash Explore Aurora? 6,000 damage to her. I still don't need to heal anyone, so we'll slow her down. And can we take her out with the Stinky Man? Oof. No, but almost. Oh, and then Poppy coming in with basically no damage. She's just like whispering on the team. Okay. So now we get all the bonus attacks on Poppy. She actually withstands that damage better than I would have expected her to. The way that the change that they made to Yuppie's ability, where what is it? They improved the bonus damage correctly. So now every time he does his ultimate ability, all of the assists come in with bonus damage and all that kind of jazz. Have changed his ability into practically a one-hit kill at higher levels. It does so much damage. It's amazing. Alrighty, let's get some AoE damage from our firefighter. Oh, doesn't take her down. Now, one of my favorite things about Sal is you'll notice when he taunts, he gets grit up too, which is going to help him build stacks of courage that he will never get rid of, which is an excellent mechanic for the build of our team. I'm going to go ahead and use Poppy's second ability. We're going to give a whole bunch of healing over time to Sal and remove a debuff from him. I'm going to heal him up. Man, I still haven't managed to get Lloyd down off of the Hardy. Good lord. This is what I'm talking about, guys. The damage on this team is so low. All right, an almost 9,000 point crit coming in from Firefighter Ash. I will take it. And now what do we have going on? I am going to slow down the hiker. I resisted. The hiker resisted the turn removal. Oh my goodness. This is actually a decently difficult team. I'm going to throw up Poppy's heal. But I think this is kind of the point that I was illustrating. This team actually shouldn't be that hard. They just are, because the city team does so little damage. Now you'll notice I haven't been using the chef's heal all that much. And there's a couple reasons for that. And this illustrates a decent-ish point with the city team. Once they do start gaining these stacks of courage, they can get pretty beefy. They still won't deal a lot of damage, but they can become pretty difficult to kill pretty fast. Let's take that ability lockout away. You'll also notice on this team, Firefighter Ash gets courage, she gets 5 stacks of courage a round. It's pretty fast the way that she builds up courage. And if you have Primo on this team somewhere, then it's only gonna get faster. Yeah, man, EMZ, I am not going to complain about the 9.9k city crit. Now, we do have a guild ally, Theo, I believe, who has leveled up his Iggy. 3 stars, level 50. Iggy, pretty weak character, but on a city team with the Firestation, we are going to use him for one and one purpose only. And that is, Iggy has the ability to grant grit up to your entire team. That is a monster move. So check this out. The city team that I am fighting against the collectible team that I'm fighting against has relatively few abilities that actually will cause debuffs. but now my whole team has grit up 2, which will increase the chances that if we do get a debuff applied, that we get that stack of courage. Now I'm going to go ahead and use Firefighter Ash's ability right here at the beginning. Oh, excellent. We get a 3,000 point crit. I love it. And now I'm actually going to try and save the characters that can do debuffs, namely Chicken Suit Guy. Despite the fact that Chicken Suit Guy is going to do the most damage. Oh god, look at that. 2 dodges in a row. Iggy, despite the fact that he's weak, also has a very fast ultimate. It's weird that Iggy even has an ultimate, if I'm being completely honest, but he does, so we'll use it. Okay, we're gonna get that Hardy on Sal. And we're going to continue in on our quest to take down the fitness instructor. We will follow that by taking down the hiker. We'll follow that by taking down the zombie. I'm trying to leave that chicken on the board. Wait, does chicken not have... Oh. Well, never mind, actually. The chicken, I was relying on the chicken's ultimate to try to put clumsy on a lot of our team, but considering the fact that the chicken on the first board doesn't have the clumsy ability, there's no real point. Let's throw that grit up on our entire team. We should have... I'm going to throw this heal out, or this heal over time out on Firefighter Ash to make sure she's nice and beefed. We will grant the heal with the speed up. Thank you, Chef. Hiker is down. Oh, look at that one. 12,000 point crit from our 6-star Firefighter Ash. Firefighter Ash hits like, dare I say it, a truck. A fire truck? You're welcome for the pun, ladies and gentlemen. Gotta throw one in there for every stream. Okay, Iggy, ready with the ultimate ability again. Good, we will use that on this team. Now, on this team, we have the Hot Dog Man, who can throw up a few debuffs. We have Cactus Girl, who can throw up a few debuffs. We've got the Yeti, who's definitely going to tank right at the beginning, throw up a few debuffs. The Yuppie, who's going to be bringing people back to life, and the Highwayman, who just smashes for a ton of damage. So, because our damage is low, we're going to try and take down the Yuppie first. And we get lucky. Thank you, Businessman Trent, for bringing a bit of damage onto the team. We are using... Yeah, we use Iggy's ultimate, get a whole bunch of Dizzy out there. Now that's going to be excellent, because it means that the Cactus Girl can't taunt. This is... I don't know if this is going to be much of an issue, however. Because... I mean, sorry, it means that the Cactus Girl can't counter. Ah, there it is, yes. I'm still using Firefighter Ash's primary ability, because I want to save that AoE to try and reach around the taunt, if I can, if that makes sense. Okay, check this out. I think we're actually just going to do a basic ability from Poppy. Yeah, because Sal can get rid of his own debuffs. Now, can we take out the Hot Dog Man? There it is, another 12,000 point crit from Firefighter Ash. I love it. I am going to use Chef's heal in order to give speed up to everybody. And now, finally, the Yeti has the taunt. We managed to prevent Yeti from going for like, what was that? Like 2 turns in a row? Firefighter Ash just bringing the hurt on this level. What is that, 3 crits? That's incredible. Now we have a really easy time finishing out this level. It is the easiest one. Collectibles are a relatively easy team to beat in the Brixpedition. It is the first board, so they're not even level 50. And now, as you can see, we didn't even get close to getting beaten, but it still did take us forever to get that team down. And that's going to be the biggest issue that you will have with your city team at first. I am currently in the process of leveling up my Explorer Aurora. I'm going to be trading her out for some folks on the team, maybe for Poppy, even though I'll lose Poppy's role model status. But then I'll be able to guaranteed bring people back to life. I like the chef's ability to heal and provide speed up, because speed is such an important stat in this game. It's kind of hard to get rid of him. But once I have both Explorer Aurora and Miner Clay leveled up, and Businessman Trent, and Primo, there's a whole bunch of characters that need to be tried out in order to really workshop this team. Tomorrow, let's see what we get. All attacker foes lose 10% attack for the entire battle. All my tanks gain payback, and all heroes gain attack up 2 for 3 turns. X, how long have I been playing? I have been playing for, I think, since the game was officially released. So what was that? Since March, maybe? March or April? So let's see. April, May, June, July, August. So 5 months, almost 6 months maybe. And I do play every day. And I am very into the whole, oh my God, what is it? When you experiment by putting teams together. Theory crafting. Woo! Couldn't find that word. It is too early on a Saturday, guys. I am very into theory crafting in general, so I actually really, really love it. Okay. I'm going to come in here and attack this team 37. Now, they are fighting with X-Trooper. I'll show you this, and I'll show you one of the biggest problems with a late taunter here. So they have swapped in Explorer Aurora for either a hiker or another pirate. They also have a late taunter on their team, and Explorer Aurora is not a pirate, which means we can attack her freely without having to worry that we are going to get countered. Now, Argenta gets the dodge right at the beginning, which is actually going to slow this whole process down a bit. But Valiant, also because he is an Imperial Justice character, means that I can use Lucy to actually stun him right at the beginning. So that's an entire round of combat. He's already a late taunter, and now he's going to continue not taunting. Now I can come in and smash their Explorer Aurora right from the beginning. So they have her on the team, but she does nothing. I'm going to come in here now and start focusing down their Redbeard. Now, I would like to lock Valiant out of doing his ability, but I'm probably going to get Salty Seas from the captain. The question is, am I now going to get the heal instead of a taunt from their Valiant? And we do, which means we have yet another turn where their tank is not tanking to try and take out an important character, which is Redbeard. So I'm going to use my ultimate against him, which is total overkill, just to make sure that he's out of the game. Now their Valiant will taunt, because it's the only ability that he has left. The problem is, what is he taunting for now? Right? There's only 3 characters left. Argenta gets weaker with each pirate that you kill. Meanwhile, we can stun him again. He's still a Justice character. And Lucy will stun every single time the opponent has either 3 buffs or more, or is a Justice character. And so there you go. That's the problem with a late taunter. Now, if we had managed to actually land Argenta's ability right at the beginning on Explorer Aurora, right in that first turn, then Explorer Aurora would have gone down even faster. So even with the dodge of Argenta's hardest hitting ability, we still managed to take Explorer Aurora down without any problems, because the tank on their team just doesn't taunt early enough. Admittedly, that's a weakness on my team as well. So my team on defense performs very, very poorly because Valiant goes last. So if you're fighting against my team, what's the first thing you're going to do? You're just going to focus down Redbeard and kill him right at the beginning. And then then you can just auto battle the rest of my team, really. So yeah, X-Trooper, yes, he didn't taunt because of the stun from Lucy first, but he also might have used his heal anyway. So I just use Lucy to guarantee that he loses that turn, because I'm not entirely sure what the threshold is where he'll taunt instead of using his buff. If the team is full up enough on health, then he will use his taunt instead of using his attack buff. Stun immobilizes a unit and their passive. So, EMZ says they lose a turn. Yeah. When Lucy on Valiant, it's basically, yes. So, as I mentioned before, right? Lucy has a 100% chance to stun the target if the target has either 3 buffs or has the Justice tag. Either one of those. If it has both, it doesn't change anything. So you can use Lucy on Valiant right at the beginning to just totally cut one of Valiant's turns out right off the front. And if that's the only tank on the team, then the team is open to whoever you want to attack next instead. I've been doing the game for 2.5 months, so it's really informative. Good, man. I'm glad you're coming to learn. Have I tried Burnibus sub Darwin out? I have not yet. I am going to be trying that out when Burnibus gets up to 5 stars. He's so close right now that it'll probably take me another couple of days plus the money. But I'm actually going to try out a few different things in the arena to see what works better on defense for me. Darwin does a pretty significant amount of damage, especially with his synergy with debuffs and the rest of the pirates. His dodge chance is also pretty solid. So I'll be leveling up Burnibus to level 50. I'll get him up to 5 stars. He's already at gear level 6. And I'm going to be playing around with swapping him out for Darwin so that I have the double tank team. I'm also going to play with swapping him out for Valiant, which will cut down on the number of counters that Redbeard will be shelling out, because Master Burnibus obviously doesn't have that pirate tag that Captain Redbeard requires to get those counters out. But there's also a world in which I would just replace Valiant with another super hard-hitting attacker. If I ever got, for example, Castaway Hank up to super high stars, or higher than 3 stars, I should say. If I were to get Castaway Hank higher than 3 stars, then I could also try a team that was just Cookbart, Darwin, Argenta, Redbeard, and Castaway Hank. On defense, I think that this is basically the same thing as having Valiant on your team, because with the team I currently have, you basically just fight around Valiant, and he doesn't do his taunt anyway. So if you're already not going to get the taunt off of your tank, then you might as well just replace it with a bunch of damage. And with all the debuffs from Darwin, Argenta, Cookbart, Captain Redbeard, throwing Castaway Hank in there and just running a team without a tank at all, it might be just as terrible defensively, but offensively, it might actually make it easier for me to win more battles because I can shell out more damage. So that is another consideration that I have been making. I may at some point, when I have few other things to spend my gems on, start spending gems to level up Castaway in the general store. I do make enough gems per day that if I were to spend it only on Castaway Hank, I could probably level him up pretty fast. But we'll see. It is an idea to play with, to see if a nuke team is viable. But we'll find out. But that's all I have for you guys on the morning build today. We've gone through the Brixpedition. We've seen the Firestation set with a bunch of the city team. I have a number of considerations to go through with what city team makeup to actually use for this set before really figuring out if it is viable at all. Until Officer Primo comes out, I'm going to be withholding my full opinion. All I can tell you is that at the moment, the Firestation is relatively weak. I have several ideas for how they could fix this, how they could improve this, But again, until Officer Primo is in the game, we will say right now it's not worth it. But it still does have potential. We just have to get more characters with courage on the board. If it is a beautiful Saturday where you are, I encourage you to go outside, spend some time in the sun, call your mom. You haven't talked to her in a while. She misses you, man. She was thinking about you all day yesterday. Call her and tell her you love her. Maybe talk to your dad. See if you can get yourself on a comfortable footing with him. Remember that thing that he said at Thanksgiving that everybody laughed about but nobody actually thought was funny? Let it go. He's a good guy. And until tomorrow, enjoy the rest of your day. I will be back at 9 a.m. New York time tomorrow morning. See you later.